Cold open, today's AI and cybersecurity deep dive is about a pattern that keeps coming back in modern infrastructure. Control planes are becoming the real blast radius. A remote support login, a cloud migration API, an enterprise identity verifier, a language agent node, or a low-level software dependency can look like separate stories. But for defenders, the question is the same: if a user, token, service account, or paired node is accepted as trusted, what can it actually reach next? Today on Daily Tech Hack Global, we are using fresh NVIDIA-sourced critical vulnerability data collected on June 16, 2026 to answer one practical question: which systems deserve priority when every dashboard is already full of alerts? The central thesis is simple. Patch severity matters, but blast radius matters more. Start with software that can authenticate users, manage machines, move workloads, attach identities, verify signed assertions, or sit inside the dependency chain of production applications. The first story is Red Hat Migration Planner exposed OVA image URLs, tracked as CVE-2026-53470. NVD describes the issue this way: a flaw was found in Migration Planner. An authenticated attacker could exploit an improper access control vulnerability in the /API/v1/sources/ID/image URL endpoint. This flaw allows the attacker to bypass an ownership check and obtain pre-signed S3 URLs for Open Virtual Appliance (OVA) images belonging to other users. Consequently, the attacker can download OVA images containing sensitive information, such as long-lived agent JSON Web Tokens, JWTs, and source configurations, potentially leading to unauthorized access and modification of the victim's source. The score listed in the NVD data is 9.6 and the severity is critical. The reason this leads today's briefing is not just the number. Migration tooling often knows where systems live, what agents are installed, what assessments were performed, and which tokens make a migration possible. If an authenticated user can bypass ownership checks and receive pre-signed URLs for another user's Open Virtual Appliance images, the incident is no longer just a file disclosure. It can become exposure of long-lived agent JSON Web Tokens, source configuration, and operational details that help an attacker understand the environment. For defenders, the action is controlled urgency. Follow the Red Hat advisory and related project guidance. Review whether your organization uses the affected Migration Planner components. Inspect object access logs for unexpected image URL creation or downloads. If there is any reason to suspect exposure, rotate agent tokens and any source credentials that could have been embedded in those images. Also look at architecture. Pre-signed URLs are not bad by themselves, but they require strict object ownership checks before generation, short lifetimes, and logging that connects the request back to the human or service principal that made it. The second story is Red Hat Migration Planner destructive authorization flaw, tracked as CVE-2026-53469. NVD says, a flaw was found in Migration Planner. An authenticated user can exploit this vulnerability by sending a delete request to the /API/v1/sources route, which lacks proper authorization and filtering. This allows for the destruction of all customer data, including sources, agents, and assessments, leading to a critical loss of availability and integrity across the entire SaaS platform. The CVSS score in today's feed is 9.1. This is a different endpoint, but it is the same control plane lesson. Destructive actions inside a SaaS platform should never rely on login alone. They need route-level authorization, object-level filtering, and a default deny posture around cross-customer data. When a delete route lacks proper authorization and filtering, availability and integrity become the immediate concerns. Security teams should review vendor updates, search for unexpected delete events, validate audit logs, and confirm that backup or recovery plans are realistic, not just documented. The third story is SimpleHelp OIDC authentication bypass, tracked as CVE-2026-48558. NVD summarizes it this way: SimpleHelp versions May 5, 15 and prior and 6.0 pre-release versions contain an authentication bypass vulnerability in the OIDC authentication flow. When OIDC authentication is configured, identity tokens submitted during login are accepted without verifying their cryptographic signature. In a vulnerable configuration, a remote, unauthenticated attacker can submit a forged token containing arbitrary identity claims to obtain a fully authenticated technician session. In some configurations, this may also allow bypass of multi-factor authentication. No user interaction is required. This item is especially important for executives because remote support tools are trusted by design. A technician session may touch endpoints, user workflows, support infrastructure, or sensitive administrative paths. If an OIDC identity token can be accepted without verifying its cryptographic signature, the problem is not merely a login bug. It is a trust failure in the identity layer that can turn forged claims into real access. The defensive response is to patch SimpleHelp according to the vendor guidance, check whether OIDC authentication is enabled, verify configuration after updating, and audit recent technician sessions for unfamiliar identities, unusual time windows, unexpected geography, or activity that does not match support tickets. If the tool is connected to privileged groups, temporary tightening while validation is underway is reasonable. The fourth story is SAP NetWeaver signed XML tampering risk, tracked as CVE-2026-44748. NVD says, SAP NetWeaver Application Server ABAP and ABAP platform allows an authenticated attacker with normal privileges to obtain a valid signed message and send modified signed XML documents to the verifier. This may result in acceptance of tampered identity information, leading to unauthorized access to sensitive user data and potential disruption of normal system usage. This causes a high impact on confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the application. In plain English, signed identity material must be verified end-to-end. It is not enough that a message was once valid if modified signed XML documents can be accepted by the verifier. Enterprise identity systems often sit behind quiet business processes, but they protect sensitive user data and application availability. Teams running affected SAP NetWeaver Application Server ABAP or ABAP platform environments should follow SAP Security Patch Day guidance, prioritize systems that face high-value workflows, and watch for anomalies around signed message verification, user identity mapping, and access to sensitive records. The fifth item is Perl DBI buffer overflow and error handling, tracked as CVE-2026-9698. NVD's summary is, DBI versions before 1.648 for Perl saved errors in a limited-sized buffer. Error messages that were returned when raise error, print error, or handle error were set were written to a 200-byte buffer without a length limit. Attackers that can influence the error text in an application can trigger a buffer overflow. This story is a reminder that classic memory safety and dependency issues still matter even when the industry conversation is dominated by AI agents and cloud platforms. A dependency that sits inside many applications can turn a small implementation detail into a broad operational problem. The safe, high-level defensive path is to identify where affected DBI versions are used, prioritize internet-facing or data processing applications, update to a fixed version, and monitor for crashes or abnormal error paths. Avoid treating dependency updates as routine hygiene only. In production environments, they are part of incident prevention. The sixth item is OpenClaw node pairing approval scope confusion, tracked as CVE-2026-53838. NVD describes it as follows: OpenClaw before May 27, 2026 contains a state mutation vulnerability in node pairing reconnection that allows paired nodes to confuse approval scope decisions. Attackers can exploit reconnection logic to restore or present broader node authority than intended, potentially bypassing approval restrictions. The interesting security angle is approval scope. Whether the product is an agent framework, a node pairing system, or a distributed operations tool, reconnect logic must not silently restore broader authority than intended. As companies experiment with autonomous agents and paired nodes, this becomes highly relevant. Approval decisions need to survive reconnects, restarts, and state transitions without expanding privilege. Defenders should review the advisory, update affected OpenClaw deployments, and look for node pairing or reconnection events that do not match expected approval boundaries. Here is the mid-video payoff. These 6 stories are not random. Red Hat Migration Planner shows why cloud migration inventory and pre-signed object access need strict ownership controls. SimpleHelp shows why identity token verification is not optional in remote support. SAP NetWeaver shows why signed assertions must remain trustworthy after verification. DBI shows why dependency layer memory bugs still carry business risk. OpenClaw shows why agent or node authority must not grow during reconnection. The shared failure mode is misplaced trust after something appears authenticated, signed, paired, or internal. So how should a security team prioritize today? First, rank by blast radius. Systems that can move workloads, start support sessions, validate identities, or sit inside widely deployed applications deserve attention before isolated low-impact services. Second, rank by exposure. Internet-facing control planes, SaaS administration paths, and tools reachable by many internal users move up the queue. Third, rank by credential proximity. If a vulnerable component can expose agent JWTs, OAuth tokens, service accounts, API keys, or production configuration, patching should be paired with credential review and rotation. For developers and platform engineers, today's engineering lesson is route level and object level authorization. Login tells you who someone claims to be. It does not prove they should access a specific image, delete a specific source, attach a specific identity, or submit a specific state transition. For security operations, the lesson is correlation. A pre-signed URL request, a failed or unusual OIDC login, a technician session, a destructive API call, a signed identity message anomaly, a service crash, and a node reconnection event may each look small alone. Together, they may reveal control plane compromise or attempted abuse. The defensive checklist is practical. Inventory affected products and dependencies. Apply vendor updates for Red Hat Migration Planner, SimpleHelp, SAP NetWeaver, DBI, and OpenClaw where relevant. Review logs around object access, destructive requests, OIDC logins, technician sessions, signed message verification, application crashes, and node pairing changes. Rotate secrets if data or images may have been exposed. Reduce standing privilege for automation and remote support tooling. Finally, confirm backups and recovery paths for SaaS or migration data before an incident forces you to test them under pressure. To close, the trend is clear. AI, cloud, and cybersecurity risk is increasingly about trusted automation and trusted identity. The products change, but the defensive question stays the same: what can this trusted thing do next, and who verified that it should be allowed? If this briefing helped, subscribe to Daily Tech Hack Global for practical security analysis for builders, defenders, and technology leaders.